Thank you for joining us at Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, the local minister at the Prince George's Church of Christ, located at 7800 Central Avenue in Landover, Maryland. Throughout the week, we will focus on the topic of discipline or discipling. What is a disciple? What does the word discipline have to do with discipling? What is the objective when we talk about discipling or discipline? You almost can't talk about one without the other. So, throughout this week, we're going to focus on how do we properly define uh, disciplining or discipling. And I'm going to use those terms interchangeably throughout the week. How do we best define it? Uh, Yesterday, I mentioned it's an action that is designed to enact change inside an individual that results in external action. So, if we can change the heart, if we can mold the heart, if we can keep the heart, the mind properly focused, then we can almost be comfortable to a large degree that the external actions of an individual are going to be more in line what is wholesome. Also, keep in mind that when we talk about discipline or discipling, it is never, ever supposed to be punitive. It is always supposed to move us from where an individual is developmentally into where they need to be developmentally. And today we will build on that. Yesterday, I mentioned that we will look at the five objectives. Uh, One is personal awareness, a second is personal management, a third objective is personal and responsible decision making, a fourth objective is healthy relationship skills to help build those. And then a fifth objective is developing healthy social awareness. With that in mind, let's talk about the importance of self management. When an individual is capable of self management, uh, you've got to ask yourself the question, what does that have to do with anything? Well, let's start out by just something very basic. What do the following things have in common? Training pants, training wheels, driver's education, or education internships. What do these things have in common? Well, each is a pathway to a more mature individual that is more likely to assimilate in a wholesome manner into the world of socialization, work, community, religion, and family. Uh, it starts young, training pants. It starts early, training wheels. Uh, this leads to driving a car. This leads to or higher education opportunities. Everything is a developmental process, but it has to start somewhere. Now, the objective is not to lock the developing person into any of those training apparatuses. Uh, you don't want a kid to get locked into training pants. Uh, so the goal is not the training apparatus. That's simply an avenue to get the individual where they really need to go. Uh, Training wheels on a bike, well, that's a start, but you do not want to lock the child into that. Uh, Driver's education, uh, well, maybe not driver's education, but uh, backseat drivers, passenger side uh, 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 drivers. Uh, at some point, you have to trust the driver behind the wheel uh, to kind of know a little bit about what they're doing. Uh, and they should get beyond having to always have someone uh, turn left, turn right. You're stopping too slow. You're stopping too fast. You need to go faster. You need to check. At some point, driver's education is supposed to dissipate. Uh, Educational internships, they don't last forever, but it's a way to get the individual sort of adjusted, assimilated into the real world of whatever their professions are. The objective is to cultivate an inner sense of confidence and skill that will release the individual into greater realms without the need for the training apparatuses. That's the goal of discipling, is to move a person to self-management, to where they don't need these items anymore. They feel confident because they've been nurtured properly while these items were in place, that their confidence level has grown to where now we don't need that, or at least not that form of the training. Now, there are probably 10 or 20, but I just have five objectives to proper discipline. Uh, and these you'll see are going to build one upon the other. Uh, Personal awareness. That's one of the goals of discipline. Personal awareness, knowing how your own emotions and your own thoughts impact you. It is to help a person kind of get to know themselves and not deny that this is who I am. This is where I am. However, this may be where I need to go. This may be what I need to grow into. Another objective of discipline is, and again, I'm saying discipline, but I'm saying discipling as well, is personal management, to help an individual develop the ability to self regulate emotions, thoughts, acts, regardless of the circumstances. Have you ever seen people that just kind of lose it when things are not going level? They're screaming, they're yelling, they become very depressed, despondent, uh, they become combative. Uh, it may be an indicator that in terms of in the developmental process, that individual did not learn personal management. They did not learn the ability to self-regulate. Look, there are going to be days in your life when things just don't go the way you planned, the way you hoped. Uh, the 3 hours into your day, all of your plans fell apart. But regardless of the circumstances, we must learn or discipline is personal and responsible decision making. Uh, Making mature choices regardless or regarding self in social matters based on ethics, morals and acceptable norms. Uh, some people never develop personal and responsible, they just do things, crazy things, ridiculous things. Uh, and there's no responsibility there. It makes no sense what they're doing. It's not mature. Well, to maturing people, it's easy to recognize immature people, because you can see when they are not, or they have not developed proper decision making skills. They're not making mature choices in social matters. They're acting honestly like a child, or they're acting like an absolute idiot, uh, absurd. Uh, and people who are developing in those areas can more readily recognize individuals who are not. The irony of this, and I use this phrase on Sunday in terms of birds of a feather flocking together. People who have not developed in this attribute of discipling, it's amazing how they will congregate with each other. Irresponsible people will normally end up with irresponsible people, but when you put a lot of irresponsible behavioral acting people together, it almost to that environment look normal. It sounds normal, but it's all abnormal. It's all irresponsible. It is comprised of people who are making immature choices rather than people who are making mature choices. So when they get together, you can identify it very easily. The objective of discipling or discipline is to make sure an individual knows how to make good choices, and hopefully they become selective in the people they allow to be a part, a viable part of their social, their communal, their religious circles. Uh, Another objective of proper discipline and discipline is to ensure healthy relationship skills, the ability to establish and nurture wholesome and fulfilling and diverse relationships with others. Uh, when people have a healthy understanding, a clarity of who they are, then they are able in a more wholesome way to establish and nurture wholesome and fulfilling diverse relationships with others. Uh, when I feel good about who I am, I can look at a person, I can interact with a person who doesn't feel very good about who they are and say, hey, look, I don't think you're a bad person. I just think you're an ill informed person. Uh, I'm not mad at you, but I'm not going to pat you on the back because you're acting somewhat immature. Uh, that's a healthy relationship. Uh, no, I don't agree with what you're doing. I don't agree with what you said. I do not agree with your behaviors. I do not condone your outlook. It's your outlook, but I want you to know you're my friend, but I do not support that. Uh, that's one of the things about discipling that is healthy for each individual, is it gives them the sense of I know how, I have the ability to establish and nurture wholesome and fulfilling and diverse relationships with others, but I will not become subjugated to unhealthy anything. And then the final objective is a healthy social awareness, being able to be comfortable with social environments but also being aware, knowing that other views might require empathy while not being in full agreement with the views held by others. Look, I empathize with you, but I don't support it. I don't agree. That's a healthy social awareness. Uh, Jesus will send his disciples out on what we call the limited commission, and he'll send them out and he gives them a directive. I want you to be as wise as a serpent and yet as harmless as a dove. In other words, social awareness. Serpents can't see visually very well at all, but the rest of their body is a well tuned sensory receptor. Smell, movement, hearing, everything is attuned to everything that's going on around a serpent. Jesus said to his disciples, I'm sending you out. Now be as wise as a serpent. Know your social surroundings, but be as harmless as a dove. Don't go out picking fights about everything. Uh, in your social environment, if you choose, you can be fighting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because something is always going on in that setting. But Jesus said, because you are aware, that's going to help you have the ability to be self-regulated. And the more aware you are of a large list, a diverse list of things, the more in control of yourself you will become. But that's why discipline and being exposed to a lot of different settings are very important. Uh, Finally, keep in mind, discipline or discipline is ongoing. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 10, 11, and 12, Paul, as an apostle, said, but when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became mature, I put away immature things. The more I was disciplined, the more I was discipled, the more I was able to put away immaturity. He said, but now we see through a glass, but darkly. Now, this is an interesting statement by Paul. He is saying, when I was a child, but now he said, for now we still see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. I still know in part, but I know more now than I did then as a child. So the discipling process is ongoing. The disciplining process, the learning process is ongoing. We never, ever arrive. Therefore, we must always be willing to learn, to be discipled, to be disciplined. Because he said, then I see him face to face. But right now, I know in part. You see the self-awareness? But then shall I know, even as also I am known. He says, when that which is perfect is come, but then will I know, even as also I am known. But he said, right now, we're all growing together. And there has to be an awareness that none of us have fully arrived to 100% maturity. Therefore, we must all be the recipients of discipline. Come back on tomorrow and we'll talk about effective and ineffective disciplining, effective, ineffective discipline. Uh, since discipline involves the dispensing of knowledge, many equate the process to being more driven by punishment and control than empowerment. Uh, disciplining is all about empowerment. How then can one determine the most effective long-term uh, method of modality of how discipline should work? How do you determine that? Come back on tomorrow and we'll discuss it in more detail. Let's pray together. Father, I pray that we will learn the goals, the objectives of being disciples and being disciplined. And I pray, Father, that as we learn more about our own personal growth, our own awareness, our ability to self-regulate, our ability to be aware of our environment and our ability, Father, to even be empathetic to others without compromising the maturity that we have arrived to. Bless us, give us patience. Thank you for the patience you have for us. Through Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I look forward to seeing each of you back in class again tomorrow. Don't be late and don't skip class. God bless each of you.
Bye.